I do it for the glory. I do it for the victory. I do it for the glory. The story that ain't been told. You know that song?
Mm,
Huh?
no.
You don't
What is
recognize the
this?
song? It's
No,
that
is it like
freaking
is that
cheesy
Bon
ass
is that Bon Jovi?
song. No, it's that cheesy ass song they're playing for the FedEx Cup playoffs. You haven't, dude, they pounded it down our throat bone the entire Northern Trust. It was every commercial break. You didn't,
I'm just muted out. I don't listen to
oh,
that.
I'm so sick of hearing it. I'm not even I don't even think I want to, I'm going to have to watch the coverage on mute just so I don't have to hear that freaking song.
That and some of these commercials that they put in there that just go over and over and over and over again.
Well, you remember when the big one for Rory, the was it like the Omega
The watch, yeah.
the, that as much as that one got played this past week, the thing I just copied got played. I can't believe you
It's
missed
terrible.
it. Hey, so welcome to the Tour Junkies podcast. DB here, Pat Perry with you for the 2020 Tour Championship from Eastlake. It's going to be an interesting show tonight. Going to go ahead and let everybody know we're going to mail it in. Okay. If we were golfers,
get it off from the start.
If we were golfers that you were sweating in DFS lineup on Friday morning and we were on the cut line when we started, but on the first hole, we we snap hooked one into in OB. We had to hit a provisional and then we couldn't find it, so we had to play our provisional, and then we shanked our provisional to the other side, and then we actually hit a volunteer in the face, causing a bloody scene that really left us kind of rattled and emotionally jarred, as we were concerned for the gentleman who may have been hit in the face. And then we proceeded to chunk our next shot, and then we bladed our next one, and then we chipped it up, and then we three putted for like a quintuple bogey. How we would play the rest of the round is how this podcast is going to go. But I will say this, it's unscripted. We got no rundown tonight. We're going to talk about some sportsbook options for the Tour Championship. Pat is going to tell you about the golf course at Eastlake. Other than that, I don't really know. I'm going to drink. My podcast juice tonight is provided none other by our boys at Wild Leap, handcrafted vodka. And Pat, I have a Transfusion. Ooh, look at that. I've got a Transfusion tonight.
Wild Leap as well for me. And I don't have anything. Just a little
straight vodka.
Little Wild Leap and some lemonade here.
Okay. I had my fantasy draft on. We both had fantasy drafts on Saturday night, but I had I bought Transfusion stuff for everybody, and a couple of people in my league who have been born and raised in Augusta did not know what a transfusion was, and it really shook me to the core. But so
that's terrible.
I still have some of the ingredients in my fridge, so I felt like tonight I'd make a transfusion. It's very
Let me ask you this, because people make them in different ways, and I think there's only one way to make them.
Agree.
So I make mine with, of course, 1 or 2 parts, probably mostly a double of vodka, some Wild Leap vodka.
So far, we're on the same. Yep.
Okay. Then I'm going to put in some ginger ale.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't drink ginger ale in anything else except for transfusions.
Me really either. And then I'm going to splash it with some grape juice. Splash.
Yes.
Not soaked.
Correct.
So that's how I make it. Now, some people, though.
A lime.
Yeah, a little lime is, that's a good finishing point. You don't always have to, if you don't have a lime, maybe it's okay. I'm okay if you don't put the lime in. I do think that completes the drink.
It does.
But some people I've heard make it with Fresca.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's the low-cal option, I guess.
Yeah, which I'm not a big fan of that. And then, so there's an older gentleman I work with who played a member guest last week. And he was talking about it on a sales call that we were on. And he said, I had this drink last week for the first time. It was called a Transfusion. Now this man's in his 50s. And I was happy that it was his first time trying a transfusion. I said, well, tell me how it was made. He said, well, it was vodka, Sprite, and grape juice. And I was like, no. That is not a transfusion. That's not the way it works. So everybody has different interpretations of transfusion. But if you want the real one, it is made with ginger ale. I can maybe give you a pass for the Fresca, but it's made with ginger ale. And that's –
I have one more qualifier. And I have to go ahead and be kind of elite here because I, having caddied at the National and been to the beverage cart, making the turn hundreds of times with members and their guests where the transfusion was made popular, okay? Barstool didn't make the transfusion popular, okay?
Yeah, hey, people, no, Barstool did not.
Yeah, the transfusion has been around for decades and a staple drink at the Augusta National Golf Club by its members and patrons. And it's been.
Are you about to throw out the brand of ginger ale is going to be the key?
No, I'm about to throw out the brand of grape juice because Welch's grape juice is the only option at Augusta National, and they don't consider it a transfusion unless it is Welch's grape juice. So mine, of course, is Welch's. I am pretty particular about it being Welch's grape juice. Now, if I'm going to drink the ginger ale, and what they had at the National, I believe, was Schweppes ginger ale, not Canada Dry. Augusta National would never have anything Canada Dry. Nothing with the name Canada in it, except like Mike Weir's like Masters jacket or something. I don't know, but it was Schweppes at the National.
No offense to any of our Canadian listeners and friends. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Sorry. Didn't mean to offend. Anyway, Pat, let's, you know what? We've got listen, why we're mailing it in, I guess, is we hate this week for DFS. Last year we gave it a shot. It was the first year they did the handicap thing on DraftKings, and it was kind of new and exciting. But now we're just like, no, we'd rather not. So we're not really advising that you do a whole lot in terms of DFS. If you want to throw a little something, sure. Last week we told you to scale back the bankroll. We did. You lose a lot of the edge with such a limited field and no cut with only 30 players and it kind of being handicapped with starting positions and points already being awarded. And then the pricing is crazy with DJ at 15 grand and the lowest guy at 5 grand. Like it's just weird. So we're just not big fans of it. We already have placed a handful of sportsbook bets just to have a little sweat in it. But, next week, full field event, we're right back at it. The season kind of starts over-ish, and then the U.S. Open in 2 weeks. We would just rather see all of our fans and listeners and followers save it up and use it for the U.S. Open. But we know there's some of you who are just total addicts and you can't help yourself. So we do want to talk about the golf course, and we want to hit on some sportsbook stuff and maybe just let you know how DraftKings is handling things in terms of this week. Now, the show tonight is going to be a shorter show. So for those of you who piss and moan that we talk for 80 or 90 minutes a week, you'll love this. So, Pat, be my guest, sir. Hit us with the course breakdown of East Lake.
All right. So, this week we're at the Tour Championship in Atlanta, Georgia, East Lake Golf Club. Great course. I've gotten the opportunity to play it once, and it is a fantastic as it will look on TV. It is a par 70 playing almost 7,400 yards. 30 players, as you mentioned, with no cut this week. You got Bermuda greens, and they will run extremely quick, just like we've really had the last couple of weeks. This is definitely a kind of a thinking man's course. I mean, it's not necessarily favoring the Bombers. It's a classic Donald Ross design. Reese Jones updated this thing in 2008. And you usually get really thick Bermuda rough, and that is the teeth of this course. They've got these great, just perfect Zoysia fairways, definitely tree lined like we see with Donald Ross designs. Only 2 par 5s this week. The 6th is reachable, number 6. 18th is reachable as well for the Bombers. I think you'll definitely see a tough test this week, though. I think maybe 10 under, something like that, will be the number that wins. If you're just listening to what the players say about this course, they constantly emphasize hitting the fairways. And not just because, the rough is thick, but because you really don't know what it's going to do out of Bermuda when you're trying to approach these greens, and you've got to approach these greens from from the right side. You've got to be below the hole. So that's the only way you're going to give yourself opportunities to score out this week. So you do have to keep it in the fairway. Now, as we know, Bombers definitely will have an advantage as they do every week, but they're still going to have to keep their balls in the fairway. So I think that's going to be huge. And you've got to strike your irons well. I mean, you've got, like I said, you've got to hit it on the right sides of the green to give yourself the best opportunity to score. I think this is a ball strikers week. I am looking a little bit at driving accuracy, definitely form when I'm looking at my bets, and if you're considering for DFS. And I think scrambling could be somewhat of something I'm looking at as a stat, because there's some sharp runoffs on these greens. If you do miss them, they're not very big. You're going to have to be able to get your ball up and down, and that's always tough, as we know, out of this thick Bermuda rough. So looking at past champs, we had Rory last year, Tiger in 2018, Xander in 2017, Rory back in 2016, and then Jordan Spieth back in 2015. So there you go. That is your rundown for East Lake Golf Club.
Yep. And just so, we get this out of the way. So obviously DJ coming in number 1 in the FedEx Cup standing. So he starts at 10 under. John Rahm, 2 shots behind him, starting at 8 under. Justin Thomas behind him at 7. Webb Simpson at 6. Colin Morikawa at 5. Then golfers in the 6 through 10 position start at 4 under, so on and so forth, down to golfers at T26 to 30 are even. So you got the bottom barrel are starting 10 shots back of DJ. The way that DraftKings is working in a nutshell is if you pick these players, they are going to start in their given position. So if you have DJ, he's going to start in first place, and he's going to be getting his first place bonus points, not birdie points, but bonus points for his finish position when he tees off. You're going to need to understand that if he double bogeys the first hole and Rahm birdies, like, he's going to lose those points. So everyone is just starting with the finish position bonus points that they get based on their start position. Other than that, it stays the same. The finish positions are baked into the price on DraftKings, which is why DJ's $15,300 or whatever he is. And then you've got 15.2, and then you've got guys lower all the way at the bottom that are in the 5K range, because it's gonna the likelihood of them getting those major finish points is extremely low. It's going to be tough to come from behind so far to really get the points. And some of these larger contests on DraftKings, man, I can't believe I was looking at some of the contest offerings. You got, tens of thousands of entries with only 30 players. It is going to be really tough to avoid duplicate lineups in a lot of these. So if you're going to play DFS, now more than ever, you need to leave plenty of money on the table. I think I saw something, implied odds for the winner of this event being either DJ or Rahm is extremely high. Mm-hmm. Justin Thomas, Webb Simpson definitely have a chance, but after that, the implied odds of one of these guys at 5 under, 4 under, or lower actually winning this golf tournament is pretty low. So you're gonna want to have somebody up there you're gonna want to have the winner you have to have the winner in your lineup this week. Like, you're gonna suck if you don't. And then you're looking for guys who can, climb out of the T11, T16 starting range into the top 5 or top 10, or, if you're going to play a guy in the T26 to 30 range starting at even, who can actually make a run and finish top 15, top 10, and give you all those scoring points as well. I definitely think Eastlake is a course where history comes into play. You mentioned some of the previous winners here. So I do think course history is something to look at. Obviously, a lot of these guys are in decent form. There's some that is sneaking here. I mean, look at freaking Mark Leishman, who is still in the FedEx Cup playoffs, despite having lost by, like 60-something shots to Dustin Johnson over the last 2 weeks. So there's a couple in here that aren't in great form that they're getting in because of, a great early run. But Sung Jae is kind of another one I'm looking at. Not been playing well lately, but got so many points in the fall and before the restart. So Pat, I mean, any other kind of thoughts in terms of DFS into what you're what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the one of the points that I think is, if you're playing these tournaments, I definitely think you got to leave a lot of money on the table, because there's just no other way you're going to differentiate your lineup all that much, and there's going to be a lot of duplicate lineups, and like you said, you pretty much got to have the winner this week. It's going to be a light week for me. I mean, there are some guys, and we'll probably talk about them when we get to the bets, that I do think have an outside shot to come back from maybe that 4 or 5 under range. But outside of that, you're not going to get the finishing points from these other guys. You're just hoping that they score a ton, and that's very difficult on this course anyway. So we'll see about that. But I mean, there are some guys that strike my fancy in that, that kind of 8 and 9K range, like a Berger, a Harris English, those type guys. I think if I'm making a lineup, I might probably start with those two, even who knows where their ownership's probably going to be high, but all of the ownership is freaking high this week, unless you're going down in the 5 and the 6K range. You could, unless you maybe play an all 6K range guy tournament or lineup, but you're still not going to have any finishing points in that hardly at all. So, I mean,
I'm looking at, this is something we don't usually get into. We forgot to mention the tournament actually starts on Friday this week, not Thursday. So it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
good point.
Monday. Yeah, that's something to think about. I'm looking right now at ownership projections, which normally we don't look at this early, but I'm just looking now. The highest owned currently, as of recording this podcast on Tuesday evening, the highest owned projected players right now are around 30 to 31%, and that is Xander, Justin Thomas, and Tony Finau. The lowest owned projected player is Mark Leishman at 4.5%. But then the next lowest owned player is Cam Smith at 11.1. So you definitely have, I mean, there's literally more than half. Well, no, let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Exactly half the field currently projected over 20%. So, with 30 players, like, this is what I'm saying, like, you have to nail it to really finish high in a GPP in a tournament. You just have to absolutely nail it. There's going to be so much volatility watching DraftKings leaderboards go up and down.
It's going to be like NASCAR. Yeah, if you've ever played NASCAR DFS, which I have, it changes like so crazy, because you'll have somebody that's in the lead and then they'll wreck and they're out of there, like totally down to the bottom. Like that's what this week is like when you're watching your PGA. You're watching your DFS lineup. It's crazy.
Now, I do think there's a couple of interesting names here, just as I'm looking at ownership projections. Currently, Bryson DeChambeau is projected pretty low among the top at 12.8%. That's like the bottom 5 in ownership projections. 12.8 for Bryson, who, I mean, if you're talking about anybody from the 4 under range, he's got to be in the conversation as someone who could get nuclear hot and actually, potentially win this thing. At 12.8, right below him, Rory at 14.7, who came out last week and disclosed that he and his wife Erica are expecting, and they are expecting any day now, and kind of attributed some of the lack of sharp game lately, attributed that to just his mind being elsewhere, which I get. But some people are scared. Like, if he said any day, does that mean if she goes into labor, he's out? He withdraws potentially. But that is driving down some Rory ownership early into 14% range. I'm just trying to talk through some maybe low-owned guys that are names. Patrick Reed is projected at 11.6. That is the 3rd lowest projected player in the field. He's got plenty of experience here. He's got a great game for East Lake. That's an interesting leverage point there. And let's see. Yeah, that's those are some big names that I think are interesting. So, DJ right now, it's being so expensive, currently projected to be 25% owned, which is good for 2, 4, 6, 8, the 9th highest owned. So 9th highest owned player is DJ. So a lot of people, maybe avoiding paying the 15.2 salary. So a lot of down at the bottom, you got guys like Billy Horschel at 5,700, coming in pretty popular at a little over 27%. So that's just kind of how ownership is looking and shaking up right now as of Tuesday. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I would definitely recommend leaving money on the table, knowing that you have to have the winner. And then looking at each tier of where these guys are starting and thinking through who actually has a chance to really move up a tier or two in terms of finish points and scoring here at East Lake. I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go down there. Let's real quick. Let's talk some cheap guys. Just
Okay.
to talk about. I will say I'll throw out one guy at 5,600, and now he's projected at 20% owned, which is about what you would expect. But Lonto Griffin, I think, is an interesting play. And I'll say this,
I think so too.
he started off the year very, hot, and that's probably one of the main reasons he's here. But he's played lately. He's played pretty good recently. And, I mean, he's good with his approach game right now. He's hitting greens in regulation. He's a good ball striker. What I like about him too, though, is I listened to him today. He was on PGA Tour Radio doing an interview, and he is absolutely thrilled to just be there this week. And he said that he is so excited to be there that he's going to throw caution to. He is just going to go out there and have fun and try to score. And he said he's going to be as aggressive as he can be, because it's just one of those weeks where he feels like he can do that. He's free.
Oh dear.
Lonto, he got me. But anyway, he said he's going to go out there and just have a lot of fun and be aggressive and kind of do his thing and just see what happens. I kind of like that attitude, especially for a guy that's, at 5,600, that doesn't have really any shot to win at all. So he's a guy that I'm kind of eyeing down cheap if I was going to be, putting in. I'm going to put one lineup in. That's what I'm going to do.
He's definitely a guy that can jump tiers. Like, he's in that T16 to T20 tier, and he could definitely jump to the top 6, top 7. He's got the firepower to do that when he's playing well. I agree. I like Lonto. I'm a little surprised that Mackenzie Hughes is as low projected right now. As he is at 15.3%, but I could see that being a little low for him. I could see him creeping up to 20. Got a lot of TV time, just crept in. Also his first time. He's been playing well. So, but I definitely like him. It's just, to me, it's obviously a lot about ownership. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. That's probably, Billy Horschel and Answer are your two names down there that really pop down there near the bottom. Ryan Palmer's been playing well. I'm sure he's very excited to be at East Lake. He hadn't been here, if ever. It's been a long time. And he's been playing really well. So, it's hard to argue with a lot of names in here except for Cameron Smith and Mark Leishman, who both really –
those are really the two that I'm like –
played terribly. Sung J M.
I can't even believe Cam Smith got in. Leishman I can see because I know – I guess Cam did win early in the year.
He won.
So
it's the early points.
Yeah.
It's all about the early points here. So that's what I'm thinking. Let's look at some odds, because I want to look at a few different things. Let's just start with outrights. Looking here on DraftKings Sportsbook, DJ is a 2-1 favorite. Wouldn't mess with that, obviously. But let's talk about your longest guys. And I wrote up the DB's Big Balls betting card is on tourjunkies.com. You can check that out, read it. I might make some adjustments to it come Thursday if you want to check that out. There's already been a significant amount of line movement as well. But just looking at some of the names in here that could – the longest shot that could actually have a chance of winning if you want to sprinkle a little unit on. Okay. And I think the longest I'm willing to go is Harris English, who right now DraftKings has at 70-1, which is way longer than what I even wrote him up as. And I need to go change his odds. He starts off at 4 under. He's got a pretty impressive group of players that are 4 under or better that he would have to beat. But when you look at how Harris English has played lately, he's probably through this restart been a top 5 player on the PGA Tour since the restart. DJ maybe you played better. Berger's played better. Webb's played probably equal to same. I mean, he's been more consistent than Morikawa. He hasn't won, but he's been as consistent. He checks every box. He's a Georgia boy. He's played East Lake many times. He hasn't played here at the Tour Championship since 2015, but I'm sure he's very familiar with the golf course. And this seems like a course that fits his style. And 70-1 is, to me, it's a long shot, and his chances of doing this are very, very slim. So that's what I say. Like, if you wanted to throw, a $20 bet on him, that would be as long as I would be willing to go. Is Harris English? You agree? You got anybody longer?
I don't have anybody longer than that. I agree. I think he's about as far down as I would go.
In that same 4-under range, if you look at other players that are starting there with them, English isn't getting a lot of respect. I mean, you got Hideki, who's also starting off at 4-under, who's half the odds that Harris English is. So same starting position, Hideki at 35-1 currently. Now, Hideki's got a great record here. Great record at East Lake. I think 3 top 10s in the last 4 years or something. A couple top 5s in there along with that. Almost won. I almost had a massive victory lap on social media with Hideki if he could have pulled it out and won last week. But he's half the odds. Daniel Berger right there with him at 4-under as well. And he's 30-1. And Berger's seems like he has more win equity than Harris English, but they're all in the same starting position, and English is twice the number. But I also am interested in Berger and Matsuyama. Those 4-under guys, probably about as, that's as low as I'm willing to go. I thought about Xander earlier in the week, but I think I'm a little further off of Xander than I was when the week started. So I think I would sit at the 4-under guys or maybe jump up to, a Colin Morikawa at 23-1 right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. Well, I'm definitely with you on Xander and Berger. Those are two guys that I think I would put some money down on at 30 and 30-1 for Berger and 35-1 for Hideki. I did look at Xander too and thought about that. As much as I don't know, as much as I just want to try to avoid him, as good a history as Rory has here, and as bad as he's played lately, but he did show a little bit on a very difficult course last week, which he's going to get again this week. At 25-1, he's 7 shots back. I mean, I could see if Rory gets really hot and he loves this course, I could see that, him coming back. I mean, I could go Rory 25-1. That would probably be about as short as I would go.
Yeah, and I mean, even thinking back to what I just said in terms of DFS, and I talked about a couple of low-owned big names projected under 15% when half the field's projected at 20% or more, is Bryson and Rory. And you got Bryson starting at 4-under, Rory starting at 3-under. Both are 25-1 on the sports book, but both essentially the same odds as Colin Morikawa. He's 23-1. Colin Morikawa starting a shot better than Bryson, 2 shots better than Rory. Much more popular in terms of DFS, at least for now. Well, not much, 19% projected, so not super high. So definitely for, if you're comparing the odds and you're thinking through, the odds makers believe that Bryson and Rory have the ability to come from way behind and do this. I mean, Rory came from behind last year and beat Justin Thomas. He wasn't as far back as he is right now. And he was definitely playing better, but it's still there. So I think those numbers are also telling.
Yeah, I agree there.
I wouldn't get any shorter. I mean, Webb at 10-1 is interesting, but 10-1 is just not something I do. So in terms of outrights, that's it for me. And then the top 10 and top 20 markets are kind of crazy because you only got 30 players in the field, right?
I don't look at it. I didn't even really look at those, to be honest. I mean,
a Mackenzie Hughes like 10-1 for a top 10 is interesting, but a top 20, you definitely could go ahead and hammer maybe a favorite if you wanted, but the numbers are still kind of wild. First round leader bets are out there, and I think there are some bigger numbers for sure. that, I think I'll probably add, to the betting card. You can actually bet on DK Sportsbook, the first round leader either with the starting strokes or without the starting strokes, and get different numbers there. So that could be interesting come Thursday night, checking out the weather in Atlanta. It's going to be a pretty short turnaround though, because you got 30 players in the field, so they're all going to tee off within an hour and a half of each other, if that.
Well,
So,
and here's the thing: you look at like a first round leader. I mean, obviously DJ's a minus number at minus 120, but on a course like this, you kind of saw a little bit of it last week. Now, this course is not as hard and is not going to play as difficult as Olympia Fields did.
right.
But you could have some big numbers thrown up by some of these guys. We see it at Eastlake. I mean, if you're spraying it all over the place and not hitting fairways, even some of these guys that are in good form right now, they may throw up a 75, and be 5 over for the round. And then all of a sudden, somebody like a Hideki or whoever's like 5 or 6 shots back flips it and is in the lead. I mean, it could happen. I mean, it's not out of the realm. These guys are, they're coming back from these numbers on Sundays, coming back sometimes from 4 or 5 shots back, much less 4 rounds to do it. So, I mean, I guess my point behind that is not just with betting, but betting out or first round leaders, but with outrights as well. I try not to get too caught up in the fact that DJ's at 10, Rom's at 8. I do think these guys behind them can come back and catch up to them. Now, who do I think is going to win the Tour Championship and maybe win this tournament? I think it's probably going to be DJ Rum, but it doesn't mean that when I'm putting my money down that I don't think there's a chance that I can gamble, which is what we're doing on some of these guys a little bit further back. So.
Well, that's a good point. There is one more prop that I have, and then I'll let you kind of wrap it up if you have any other thoughts. Or when you talk matchups, but there's a prop I want to mention, and there was something that happened involving this last year. Before I do, I want to remind everybody you only got a couple more weeks to go get some fresh draws from our friends at Chill Boys, because the promo code for chillboys.com, Tour Junkies, the promo code Tour Junkies gets you 15% off your entire order if you want some fresh draws and some fresh boxers, some fresh briefs. Treat yourself, treat your Grundle area, and only for a couple more weeks you're going to have this opportunity, unless something crazy happens. But our friends at Chill Boys have been hooking a lot of listeners up. They've hooked us up. I'm wearing them right now. Pat got mad at me for exposing myself a few weeks ago on the podcast, so I won't do that. But the anti-chafing zone built into the briefs and boxers is quite amazing. They have a lovely, soft, super soft cotton blend, as well as a incredibly soft bamboo kind of blend thing, which is amazing. Based in Minnesota, great U.S. company, good people. We've talked to the founders, great guys. They love golf, and they made Chill Boys kind of with golfers in mind, and that's why they reached out to us. Hey, you got golfers that listen to the show. Guess what golfers do on the golf course? Well, they're ball sweat, and they need some support, and they need no chafage, and they need cooling, and that's where Chill Boys comes in. So go to chillboys.com and check out the full line of the cool, soft boxers and briefs, and use code Tour Junkies to get that 15% off your first order. So again, go to chillboys.com, promo code Tour Junkies, save 15%. Thank us later, and thank the Chill Boys. I was at Eastlake last year. This will be the first year that I have not been at Eastlake in probably 5 years. And I was there on the day that Chez Reavie made a hole-in-one. It was the first ever hole-in-one in Tour Championship history last year on Friday on the 9th hole. There is a hole-in-one prop on DraftKings. Will there be a hole-in-one in the tournament? Yes, at 6-1. No, at a massive number. Chesticle did it last year. Yes, it was the first time in history, but I mean, there ain't much else to really bet on. You bet on a handful of outrights, maybe grab some matchups. You're gonna save some money in DFS. What if you throw a little something on the old hole in one? You root for that. You got the best players in the world. A lot of hot players on this golf course. taking advantage of the par threes, maybe another Shesticle. If Shesticle can do it, anybody in this field can do it. I mean, hell, Mark Leishman could do it, right now.
Do you
Maybe.
get crazy, though, and go with 2 or more holes in
2
one
at 40
for
to
40
1?
to 1?
No, I don't. I think that's insane. I mean,
on a
for
course
30
like
players,
this,
yeah. Do we even see that? Like, I mean, how many times do you think we see that in a year? Maybe one? Do we see 2 hole-in-ones in a tournament?
I think it maybe be more than once, but
yeah.
But on a course like this with 30 people, that 40 to 1's, I don't know. But I don't mind the 6 to 1 number.
Yeah.
Let's look at some matchups. I think there's some good ones. I think there's some good ones that I like here. I'll start off with one that, arguably the hottest play in the world, Daniel Berger over Bryson DeChambeau. Daniel Berger's at -110. I think that's a pretty good number for him. I feel like he's just going to beat him straight. I think this is a way better course for Berger than it is for Bryson. I think Bryson's going to probably end up being too aggressive off the tee. He's going to find himself in the rough a lot. He's going to get frustrated on him. Yeah. So I like Berger at -110 over Bryson. Looking at a plus number, I like Scotty Scheffler at +100 over Tony Finau. Now, Finau's obviously been playing good, but so is Scheffler, and I'm getting a positive number on him. I think he can have a good debut in this event. Finau is again, he is playing well, but I like that bet for Scotty. I think he's going to be pumped up to be playing in this event. He's a scorer. I'm a big fan of his, so I like some Scheffler at +100 over Finau. Another one I like, we mentioned Lanto Griffin.
Yes, this is my favorite.
I like it at +120 over Neiman. I know. Yeah, I mean, I know we saw Neiman have a great week last week, but that was sort of, I thought, a little bit of an anomaly. I don't think that, he hasn't been playing fantastic lately.
Well, that's what he does. That's the rub with Neiman, and I say this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, Neiman is very up and down. He's 20. What is he? 22? Which is fine. Like, he's super talented. But if you look at his PGA Tour career, albeit short, it is very up and down. I mean, he could have a top 5 week here and then screw it up the next week. So, with the hype of Neiman last week that we saw, I figured you were going to go to that bet because you already mentioned Lanto in the outright market, but that is my favorite plus number matchup is Lanto +120.
Yeah.
Both first timers here, so it's not like Neiman has any edge over him in terms of experience. Yeah.
The last one I'll go with is there's 2, but you may mention it. If you don't, I'll throw it out there. But I like Kiz at +110 over Billy Horschel, and I'm a big fan of Horschel too. I think he's been playing well. Kiz we've seen do terrible in this event, but he's also had some pretty good finishes the last couple of years. He was not T9 last year, T3 in 2017, missed it in 2018, but. I think this is a good course for Kiz. Another Georgia boy that's used to playing courses like this, Bermuda greens, all that kind of stuff, hits fairways. He's not necessarily that long, but, a good putter, a good ball striker. So I like Kiz in this matchup. I think it's a close one for me because I really like what I've seen out of Horschel lately, but I like that plus number for Kiz there. So.
Pat, did you happen to read the Big Balls betting card already?
I actually did not read it. I apologize.
Yeah. So. Well, the Lanto matchup and the Kiz matchup, 2 matchups that I wrote up there and I've already bet on myself. And I took the same sides you're taking. I like the Kisner plus number over Billy Ho. Obviously, Billy Ho's won here before, but I do think Kisner's heating up and Horschel's. It feels like Horschel's trying to hang on. Like he was pretty hot in the restart, but it feels like I don't know. It feels like he's losing a little bit of control and he's just trying to he's white knuckling it at the moment in terms of his game. But so I like that number, and I know Kiz loves Eastlake. So, I think let me see here other matchups I like. I like the Mackenzie Hughes favorite over Cam Champ, which I never thought I'd say. That sounds just really I need a drink after that. That kind of left a weird taste in my mouth.
Yeah, you might need to.
I like.
I don't
Hughes.
mind that though. Hughes has been surprisingly
solid.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, minus 125 over Cam Champ at plus 100. And then honestly, man, I mean, DJ and Rom. Now, DJ's getting a 2-shot lead on him, but Rom's at plus 100. I just think those are big names, and you're giving, it's tough to come back and get DJ on a head start, but I mean, Rom had an incredible weekend at the Northern Trust. And by the way, that freaking playoff, the 72nd hole for DJ and the playoff was absolutely electric. Wish there were fans there. Those putts by both of those guys were absolutely insane to watch. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
It really was.
But
and
Rom
also,
at plus 100. I mean,
yeah. I mean, DJ can go out and double the first hole, and all of a sudden they're even. Like it does. Like
I mean,
that.
Justin Thomas. If you remember last year, Justin Thomas lost it real quick. Like he lost it on the first few holes last year. It could totally happen, and things be real square real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't mind that number. And both those guys are, looking for their first tour championship. I mean, obviously DJ's had many more shots at it than Rom has. But they're both fired up. Rom is, coming off of a victory, really a lot of big victories for him. He had the Memorial, victory there, just last week, early on in the season. I mean, this feels like just Rom's year, to kind of, if you're saying that the season is ending, which it doesn't really feel like, but it is, at the end of this week. It just feels like Rom is one of those guys that definitely deserves it. I mean, and DJ too. I mean, DJ's been up and down, but so I think that's an interesting play, and I like the plus number for Rom. But going back to those putts, though, just both their reactions too, like they both kind of start
DJ's
walking,
reaction I've never seen before.
Yeah, he got excited for once. And they both kind of started walking because it was such a slow putt that you had that's what made those putts so great. You had so much time to watch it and just kind of be like, okay, all right, that looks pretty good. That's kind of coming online. I wonder if it's going to move back a little bit to they were so slow that it was just like, Rom was already almost 3/4 of the way to the ball before it even dropped in the hole. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, I think it was like 11 seconds between contact and ball in the hole for both putts, which is crazy. Yeah. Hey, looking ahead at the PGA Tour schedule and kind of what's coming up and what to expect, and this week as well for us. By the way, no chalk bomb this week. Again, not really encouraging a whole lot of DFS play, so just no chalk bomb. And no pivot point article, no fantasy golf sommelier. The 10 key stats will be out on Wednesday. The betting card is already out. Will be updated on Thursday night. That's about it. We'll be in some Nut Hut chat throughout the day on maybe Wednesday, Thursday, but probably also not a Nut Hut chat going on Thursday night either. Sorry, it's just the way it's working out. And we need frankly, like, it's nice to have a little bit of a break. Safeway Open starts right back up with a new 2020-2021 schedule next week. We're going to be the tour's going to be in Napa, which should see, I don't know. I know a lot of guys are going to take off the Safeway. We've already talked to a few of our friends out there that are taking off for the Safeway, but you might have a few big names that maybe get this week off that show up at the Safeway to try to tune it up before they head over to Wingfoot. Talk to somebody today that has direct connections with the superintendent at Wingfoot, and told me today, actually showed me a picture, wouldn't let me share the picture, but showed me the picture of a test plot of rough at Wingfoot that they have just gotten approval from the USGA to roll with. And it is extremely gnarly, very, very gnarly. The superintendent told my contact that the goal for the winning score at Wingfoot is going to be +4 is their goal. So extremely penal rough is the plan.
Why didn't you send this to me?
Well, I just thought to share it tonight. So yeah.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you would just forward it on.
Well, I had other things going on today, Patrick. But yes,
Okay.
I'm sharing it with you now. I mean, what does it change? This isn't U.S. Open week. We're 2 weeks out. So, and everybody knew this anyway. Like we all knew Wingfoot was going to play really tough. So
Yeah, it's going to
it's
play
not really
tough.
super
It's
shocking.
an awesome course, though.
I did get another piece of intel for what it's worth, and it kind of makes me unhappy. But I think I'd share, and I haven't shared this with you either. And I'm talking about this because there's nothing else to talk about. Someone very high up at Augusta National said that they are very concerned that even April could be patronless at Augusta National. They are, and this is another quote, that we are not going to be the first, which is a little understandable because Augusta's kind of like that, but then it's also a little not, because Augusta could, if anybody were to be the first to execute a mass crowd event like this and do it with excellence and do it in a way that no one saw coming, and it would be the Augusta National. But the quote was, we are not going to be the first, that they were 100% waiting to see what college football would do. And if you go back and look at the timeline, I think the first couple of when the first two, I guess, was the Big Ten and the Pac-12 maybe, said they were out. Shortly after that, Augusta National announced no patrons. They were also hoping that the U.S. Open would have fans, and then when that happened, that pretty much shot down November. I think it seems that their eyes will be on college football and on the NFL in terms of those teams that have fans in the stands, in terms of looking ahead to April. But the other thing that he said that I thought was very interesting is that they will not consider less than 100% capacity in terms of patrons, that is not on the table. It's been kicked around. Not on the table. It is 100% patrons or no patrons. It would be a massive ticket issue given all the people that have already been promised tickets for 2021, and they are not interested in operating at 25 or 50% from a patron standpoint. So very scary for me. I mean, what the Masters does for the Augusta local economy, to not have it 2 years in a row would just be awful for a lot of people. And not just as golf fans, but just economically, businesses and people that count on that rental income, and all of that would be really sucky. So,
I mean,
something to talk about. It's not great news, but
I mean, it's a little early. We'll see. I mean, I think until you maybe see a viable and whatever vaccine and all that kind of stuff, it's probably you're not gonna see fans. But
you are at SEC college football games, and you are at some.
I think
NFL
you're gonna
stadiums.
See college football. I think you're gonna see college
some
football.
NFL stadiums. By the way, if any listeners out there have some creative ideas for Masters merch, we are kicking around some Masters ideas. It's going to be a special year being in the fall. So we're going to have some sort of Masters merch. And if you have a great idea and we end up using it, we'll hook you up. So you can email us that info@tourjunkies.com. Let's see. What else, Pat?
I don't know. I had some good pontificate thoughts, but I feel like I should save those, or if nobody's, or I'll probably still put them in the next.
Let's save them.
Yeah, I'll probably still put them in the next chalk bomb, but I've got a few that really,
sounds great. I can't wait. Listen, thanks everybody. We appreciate you tuning in to the Tour Junkies podcast. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting week. Ready to get back to full field events next week for the Safeway. Thanks for understanding. We're going to make it a light week for us. Take a little bit of time to breathe before we get going again. And we'll go from there. But appreciate it. Hope everybody has a fantastic week. Thanks for tuning in. May your screens be green if you're going to do that. But may your betting tickets all hit. And if they do, let's all party on Twitter, Instagram. Let us know. Be sure and review and rate the show on Apple Podcasts if you don't mind. 5 stars would be awesome. like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and all the things. Go check out Chill Boys too. All right, Pat, you good?
I'm good.
May your screens be green, folks. See ya.
Oh.